My grandfather's last word was a name we'd never heard before. I finally found out who it was. When my grandfather was in his final days, our whole family gathered around him to be with him and to support my grandmother through her grief. My grandmother, my father, and I were at his bed as his breaths steadily slowed. Just when we thought he was gone, he opened his eyes for a second and cried out, "Roger, wait for me." Then he closed his eyes again and took his last breath. We cried and comforted my grandmother, but I couldn't stop myself from thinking, who is Roger? It's not the name of anyone in our family, and I'd never heard my grandfather mention him when he was talking about his poker group or his own army buddies. I didn't want to ask my grandmother about it, but she actually brought it up that night while we were all still gathered together. She asked if any of us had any idea who Roger was, because she didn't know anyone by that name, but none of us did. It was hard enough for her that in his last moment, he'd called out for someone besides his wife of almost 60 years, but it wasn't just someone else. It was a person that he'd clearly kept a secret from her. I admit I became a little obsessed with finding out who Roger was. I combed through his military records and even looked through his old college yearbooks. I asked his neighbors. I even looked through his phone and his emails, with my grandmother's permission, but there was no one named Roger. I even wondered if maybe my grandfather had a secret lover or something. But last week, I finally found out the truth. My grandmother asked if I could come over to help her sort through the last of my grandfather's things. One of the very last boxes was a bunch of photos from his childhood. His mother had written the dates and a brief description on the back of them. And on one, when my grandfather was about 5 years old, there it was. Cliff with Roger. It was my grandfather running through a field with his dog, and there was my answer. My grandfather's childhood dog was named Roger. It had been 80 years, but in his last moments, my grandfather thought of him. Or maybe he really saw him, waiting for him in whatever comes after this world. That's what I want to believe. That somehow, my grandfather saw Roger ready to play with him again, and now they're running around in a field somewhere again, forever.